Today I'm going to be talking to you about standardized tests, their pros, cons, and then my personal opinion about them. So standardized tests are tests that are given by the government to make sure that students are where they need to be academically, and they're often used to determine what colleges students are able to get into or whether they're college ready or not. So you can think of some standardized tests as the ACT, the SAT, and around here we typically take the ACT once we're in high school. So people that think standardized tests are a good way to test students and see if they're college ready say that they're very convenient and they're equal to all the people that they're given to, so there's no discrimination with them. They're convenient for the government because you can just give out one test, see how people do, and that just determines what colleges they're able to get into with some other factors, but it's mostly based off of your ACT scores or your SAT scores. Some people argue that grades should just be what determines what colleges you get into. If you get good grades, then you get into good colleges. But that's not always the best source to use because some teachers give out A's a lot easier than other teachers do. And sometimes favoritism, as much as we don't want it to happen, it does occasionally happen in schools. So it's not always the best source to use when determining what colleges students should go to. People also argue that standardized tests are good because they're a good way for the government to make sure that schools are doing what they need to be doing. If you didn't check up on schools with just a standardized test, schools could just give out A's, and it would look like their students are learning a lot and they're doing a great job, but really students or teachers could just give out A's when they're not doing a good job of teaching the material. Now, on the other hand, people say that standardized tests are a bad way to determine what colleges students should go to because they do discriminate. When you go to take the ACT or the SAT, you can sign up for courses that will help you better prepare yourself ahead of time, but they do cost money. You also, once you take the ACT or the SAT is provided one time by your school, but you can take it as many times as you like, you just have to pay for it. So it is discriminating against people that aren't wealthy enough to afford to pay for those extra courses or to take it as many times as they need to. So really, the wealthy are an advantage here. It is also a bad way of testing because when you grow up and you're in school, they teach you that you need to take your time and do thorough work and check over your work to make sure all your answers are right and just to show what you really know. But the standardized tests are time tests, so sometimes you don't have time to answer all the questions and you just have to bubble them in because if you didn't, then you'd just be leaving the answers blank. They're also a bad way to test because they teach bad life skills. They're teaching you that if you just rush through it, then it's going to be okay, but really you should take your time and do quality work. Standardized tests are also not a good way to test because some people are good test takers and some people aren't good test takers. So it's not really fair to determine, okay, you're college ready because you are good at taking a test and you're not good at taking a test, so you're not college ready. You have your students that do all their homework and they work really, really hard, but they still just aren't the best when it comes to tests, and you also have students that don't do any homework but they still ace every test. So people really vary, so that's why the test itself should vary. If you haven't already been able to tell, my personal opinion is that standardized tests are not a good way for people to determine what colleges that you're able to get into. I personally was one of the students that wasn't able to finish my test in time, so I just had to bubble in random answers. I'd say for a solid third or quarter of my test, because I really take my time when I do my work, so I didn't like that it was timed and it just added a lot of extra stress onto me. So I feel that standardized tests are not a good way of testing. While it is hard to determine what is the best way to determine what colleges students should get into because grades, as I mentioned earlier, can sometimes vary per teacher, I feel that the standardized tests, if they're going to do that, they shouldn't make it timed. Thank you so much for listening. Bye!